Hello, it's me, Coco, and I'm starting off this video with a big disclaimer. This video I'm going to be talking about my menstrual cycle and what I use to take care of it. If you don't want to listen to all of that, you can go ahead and skip to the next video. No pressure. I won't feel judged. This video is not sponsored. This video is not monetized. Fun fact, videos about period products or period stuff in general are not monetizable. But I really wanted to make this video because when I was making my decision to switch to more sustainable period products, I used YouTube videos to help me make my decision, and so I'm giving back and help other people make their decisions. So with no further ado, you've been given fair warning. Let's get straight into it. Because it's relevant, I'm just gonna talk about my flow and how I take care of my menstrual hygiene. My period is on the medium to lighter side. I usually have my period for about 3 to 4 days, with my heaviest day on the first day, and then it kind of just peters off after that with a big squeeze at the end. I don't know if any of you know what I'm talking about, but I also use a menstrual cup. So normally I use my Thinx as backup for the menstrual cup. Previously, I had been using a menstrual cup and panty liners, and the Thinx helped me transition to a way more low waist period by using these reusable period undies. You might hear some kind of like weird or iffy things, but remember, I purchased more as time went on, so it's not a black and white issue. There's lots of shades. I asked around for some questions about Thinx undies, so I'm gonna start with the questions and then I'm gonna go into a list of pros and cons and then give you my final thoughts. So let's get right into it. Question number 1, how do they look under clothing, tight clothing, or light colored clothing, etc.? It really depends. They actually fit and look under clothing very similar to regular undies. So if you prefer not to have visible panty lines, you can go for the thong undies. But if you don't really care that much, or you wear pants that don't really show panty lines that much, like some looser jeans or whatever, it'll look fine and it doesn't look bulky at all. Next question, how long can you wear them for? Can you wear them for a full day or 8 hours max? If you've ever worn a sanitary pad or menstrual napkin or pad or whatever, I would recommend that you probably would change it as often as you would change the pad, especially if you're free bleeding. So for example, if I was using a pad or a panty liner as backup before, I would probably wear my Thinx panties for just as long. So it kind of depends on how much I would bleed on it. It can be kind of rough if it's a heavy day and I don't have an extra pair with me. I know that some women who use their Thinx undies as their primary menstrual product will take them with them and then also take along a wet bag so that they can change into a new pair and then wash the pair real quick in the sink and then put it into a Ziploc bag that'll keep the panties wet and then ready for the washer. But if you're using them for backup and you're not really bleeding on them that much, you can wear them for a full day. I'll talk a little bit more about this a little bit later with one of the other questions. Okay, so the next question is odors. When it comes to odors, the cleaner your Thinx are, the less they're going to smell. But in my opinion, I've had to wear these in situations where I didn't have access to a washing machine and it's a lot harder to wash them when it's just hand washing. In this case, it might be useful to have a product that my friend Susie has, which is like a hand-operated wash bucket that has kind of like a plunger with holes, and that kind of thing probably would work really well for washing your Thinx. So if that's something that you're interested in, I'll leave the link to her demonstration video here. It's really important to keep your Thinx really clean because that is gonna cut down on the smell in the long run. Basically, the longer that you wear them and the less clean they are, the more they're going to smell. Again, it's kind of like, how long would you wear a pad and how bad would your pad smell? I'd say it's like slightly less bad as that. It's not a huge problem, is what I'm trying to say. The smell is not a huge problem, but it can be a problem if you don't take care of it. You know, like the Thinx aren't going to solve all of your period problems, just some of them. The smell is one that, you know, I mean, if your period blood smells, then it's gonna smell. They say that they have odor reducing properties. Maybe that's true, but sometimes When in your period would you recommend wearing them, like more towards the end, etc.? Like when should you use the Thinx panties? I think it really depends on you and what your personal hygiene preferences are. Like I said, I use the cup and I wear the period underwear throughout my entire cycle. I have a friend who has a really, really heavy period, and I would definitely recommend these to her. Like, she'll double up on like super pads, for example. And if she had these Thinx, then maybe she would only have to wear one pad, or maybe she wouldn't need to wear any at all. Kind of depends on what your personal needs are. Anytime during your cycle, you can wear them. But you know your cycle best. You know your habits and your preferences best. So I think it's more of a personal thing. Okay, this one's really funny. Do they squish when you sit down? And then there's other similar things, like, do they get heavy like a diaper? I have not worn a full diaper since I was maybe this big, so I can't say exactly, but I can tell you that when you do bleed on them, it doesn't like puff up like a diaper does with the gel. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's super squishy, but it does feel more like, not like a diaper, and maybe not even as much as like a pad, but it does feel a little bit like a wet bathing suit sometimes. Do they leak at all when sitting? Maybe somebody who uses these as a primary period product might have a different experience, but I've never had an issue with these leaking, which is awesome. If you're still watching this video, you probably know this experience of like, you wake up from sleeping for a long time and you're like, oh my gosh, how much did I bleed last night? Did I bleed on my sheets? And then you take the sheets off. I was nervous the first time that I slept wearing them, but actually, like, they work. I've protected, no leaks ever. I've been using these for like a year and 9 months, so that's kind of how much experience I have with them. Are they comfortable? They're super comfortable, actually. Sometimes it's even more comfortable than like regular underwear, and definitely way more comfortable than wearing a pad or even a panty liner. Like, you just feel hugged. It just feels comfortable. You don't get that like gross plastic feeling on your butt. You know, when the pad is just like pressed into your butt all day, it really feels like regular underwear, which is amazing. It's just way more comfortable to have cotton there as opposed to plastic, because it's a lot more soft on your skin, and it is a lot more comfortable. Do they actually work? Yes, they actually work. It's really great to feel protected, and that I'm having a more sustainably minded period and not adding a bunch of trash to landfills and stuff. It's great to look at the trash can at the end of my period and it's not completely full. It's just as full as it was before, because I'm literally not throwing anything away. The last question is, how do you wash them? And this is what you should do. Rinse them in cold water in your sink. Try to get as much out as you can. The jury's split on whether you should hang them up to dry until you wash them in the washer, or if you keep them wet. Shelby from Shelbizzle keeps a wet bucket near her toilet for when she has her period, and she puts them in the bucket full of water to prep them for being washed. I will hang them up, but probably the wet bucket, it probably works better, but also, who wants to have a wet bucket full of undies next to their toilet? I don't know. You figure out what works for you. You might also want a wet bag for your bag or whatever. Anyway, once you get past that stage, you wash them, preferably with your darks, just so you don't get a bunch of lint on the dark fabric inside, and then you take them out and hang dry them, and then they should be pretty good. So don't put them in the dryer. I'm asking Google, what happens if you put things in the dryer? So don't panic if you threw your panties in the dryer once or twice. A few cycles in the dryer won't hurt your Thinx. However, repeated exposure can reduce the performance of the underwear, so try not to make a habit of it. So, I mean, the last thing we want to do is degrade these very expensive panties so that they actually leak while you're on your period and they're supposed to be protecting you. So just don't put them in the dryer, but that's how you would do it. Rinse in the sink, wash in the washer on cold, and then hang dry them. If you like this video and you think it's gonna be helpful to you, go ahead and hit that like button, and let's get into the pros and cons. I'm gonna start with the cons. So the first thing that you'll notice when you go to the Thinx website is that these period panties are not cheap. In the long run, they will save you money because you won't have to keep buying pads and tampons, and that stuff adds up. You know, it's an investment. You really have to invest. And honestly, I saved up, and there was a really big like workup period because there was a long time where I didn't have enough money to buy a full set of these, and I finally was able to get them, and that was great, but they're just not affordable for everybody. So I'd say that's a huge con and a really big barrier to entry. Hopefully in the future, when there's better technology, there'll be more increased access to the period products. Yeah, I just hope that they're gonna be more accessible in the future, especially in areas where people have a hard time affording stuff like this. Kind of related to the cost issue, it works best when you have a lot of them because you can't dry them in the dryer, they have to air dry, and you might want to wear, you know, 2, maybe 3 pairs a day. I used to wear these for a full day long, but now that I have more pairs, I prefer to kind of break it up through the day and change it, you know, when I wake up in the morning, when I go to sleep at night, and oh my gosh, it feels so good to put on a fresh, clean, dry pair. So I like to give myself that opportunity as often as I can, but for somebody who's bleeding on them a lot more, you might want to change them more. If you're not bleeding that much, you don't have to change them as often. When you have a lot of them, it's expensive. These panties are like $30 a pair. You know, it's a lot. It's definitely something that you can build over time and just buy a pair or 2 at a time, wait for the sale, get a discount code. I have a discount code. I'll put it in the description box. I think it gives you $10 off. But yeah, it adds up. The next con is that you really do have to make some adjustments to your lifestyle because you have to put in some extra work to wash them. It's not a simple just throw it in the trash can situation. You have to rinse them. It's best if you rinse them in the sink first and then you wash them in the washer, and you're gonna have to do laundry probably a couple times during your cycle. I like to save my darks, I guess, for around this time so that I can wash them together. You know, it's a thing. I don't wanna waste water washing stuff, but I also really need to wash these undies. Sometimes I need to wear them twice in a cycle. This con is a big one, but you might get a dud pair that kind of starts to fall apart once you start using them. One of my first pairs of Thinx had some bum elastic that just started like shredding. All these like strings were coming off. It was really bad, and I was really disappointed because, like I said, this was something that I worked up for. I saved for these, and when I got them and they started falling apart, I just felt like, oh my gosh, I had been building this up for such a long time. I wanted these so bad, and they ended up just falling apart on me. I felt betrayed. But I just cut those extra strings off, and it didn't affect the function of the elastic. It just looks kind of bad. You can see that bum elastic here compared to the regular side, but it actually doesn't mess with the function of the panties. It still works okay. But another thing that could happen, and this has happened in a couple of my pairs, is that the liner starts to get holes in it. So in that same pair, the liner just started getting a bunch of holes in it, and that was another thing that was super disappointing. I can still use them. I do still use them all the time. It just made me think like, okay, Thinx is not the end all be all. There are other brands out there and maybe they have a little bit better quality in the gusset, but again, I have a bunch of pairs of these and it's only happened to 2, but don't be surprised if it happens to yours. And then on that note, another weird thing that could happen is these like bleach stains. And at first I thought that my blood was staining the black fabric red, and then upon closer inspection, I realized it wasn't a blood stain, it was actually like a bleach stain. You know when you bleach something black and it kind of turns like reddish or pinkish? It was kind of like that. But Thinx said that this is normal. It doesn't affect the performance of your underwear at all. It just might look a little bit weird. It probably has something to do with the chemistry of the blood interacting with the chemistry in the fabric. It might have something to do with the odor reducing qualities. Man, I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's kind of weird, but whatever. Shelby didn't want to show this in her video, but like, I'll just show it just so you can see what it looks like. You have been warned. If you don't want to see it, just skip ahead for 10 seconds, but here it is. This is what the bleach stain looks like, and it's not that big of a deal. It's just a little bit of a lighter color stain on the panties. The last con is that these can be kind of tricky. It's like a pro and a con when you're traveling. On one hand, you have access to your period products. On the other hand, it can be tricky when you're in a new environment and you have to figure out how to wash and dry these properly. And like I said, these can get kind of smelly if you don't wash them well enough. So that's just something to kind of be prepared for. Just be prepared for that. But now onto the pros. Number one, they work. You know, they work just as well as a pad or a panty liner, but they're just way better because pro number two, they are a sustainable option, which is gonna leave less trash in your trash can. And over the long run, you should save money by not having to keep buying tampons, pads, panty liners, all of that stuff. On that note, it's pretty cool that you never have to restock your period products. They're always there right when you need them. I was keeping mine in a drawer while I was at my last house. Now I just have like a special pocket in my suitcase for them. And there's never that panic when you realize that you ran out of your products and you have to run to the store and like, oh my God, am I gonna leak on the way? And you don't have this crisis. So that's a huge pro. They're always there for you. They're always ready and waiting. There are a lot of styles. There's something for everybody, even for different body types. And if you want to learn more about that, keep an eye out for my Thinx Fit Guide. When it's ready, I'm going to post it here. I think that there are definitely different styles that are going to suit different body types better. And some styles that are a lot more comfortable than other styles. And my last pro is that they are super comfortable. They feel kind of like regular undies, and like I said, they just hug you just in the right way, and it's a lot more comfortable and a lot more breathable than wearing a pad or a panty liner. My friend Susie from Chew on That just got her first pair of Thinx, so she made a first impressions and a use vlog out of that. So if you want to check that out, I'll leave the link here and in the description box. Be sure to check her out because she's awesome. So those are the questions answered, the pros and cons. I hope this video was helpful or relatable to you. I make videos about veganism, sustainability, and radical self-care. So if you're into that kind of stuff, and also if you like sustainable product reviews, make sure to hit the subscribe button and the notification bell so that you can get notified for when my videos come up. Yeah, leave me a comment if this was interesting or relatable to you, and I'll see you in my next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.